Second grade readers, can you believe that we are on lesson 10? This is the final lesson for Unit 1. I am so proud of all of the hard work that you've done over the last 10 lessons to become a great reader. Let's take a look back at some of the anchor charts we've used and think about what you've learned. I'm going to show you an anchor chart, and then I'm going to pause, and I want you to say something that you remember learning when we used that anchor chart. Are you ready? Here's the first one. What is something you remember doing with that anchor chart? Say it out loud. Did you say something like, I learned to ask green questions to find answers to the story that are right there? Or maybe you said, I learned how to ask questions about a story using who, what, where, when, how, and why. Asking questions about a story is one way that readers can make sure they are understanding and knowing the story. Here's another chart we used. Questions that lead us to key details. I'm going to pause for a minute. You tell something that you learned when we studied this chart. Did you say something about how you can ask questions that will lead you to key details? That these are the questions you can ask after a story is over to make sure you understood the key details. That's what we were learning. And finally, I want you to look at this. What do you remember we were learning about when we used these charts? Go ahead and say it out loud. Did you say something like, I learned that we can use words and illustrations to learn about a character? Or maybe you said, I learned that we need to jot down what the words say and what the illustrations show about a character so that we can think about the kind of character or the kind of person that character is. That's exactly right. You have learned so much, and it's time for you to be a superstar. It's time for you to show what you have learned throughout this unit. Your job today is to demonstrate how you have learned to ask and answer questions about key details and use words and illustrations to understand characters. In the supplies you brought home from school, you should have a piece of paper that looks like this. It's called I Can Show What I Know. And you're going to use it to show how you have learned all of our targets during lessons 1 through 10 in Unit 1. If you can't find this paper, you can do this work on another piece of paper so that your digital teacher can see what you've learned. Here's what you're going to do. First, you're going to reread Alyssa's bow tie. You should have a copy of it that came home with your school supplies, but if you don't, you can go back in this Nearpod lesson and go back to our shared reading and read it there again. So you're going to reread Alyssa's bow tie. Then you're going to write 2 questions about the story and a detail that answers the question, just like we did on our T-charts. And finally, you're going to use the words and illustrations to help you create a character statement about Alyssa. Alyssa is a character who... Use the words and illustrations to help you write that statement. When you have this all finished, make sure you come back to the Nearpod lesson. I want you to reflect on the amazing growth that you've done during Module A, Unit 1. Okay, readers, off you go and come back when you're finished.